we are very, very, very fortunate to have Kevin Elrod with us today. And he was with us a few weeks ago, and he's going to continue to be with us. But we're fortunate not only because he is an FMCSA special agent and safety investigator, which is a big deal in and of itself, but he's driven over the road. He's driven a little bit of ready mix. He knows our industry. He was also the safety director of Howard Sheppard Trucking. But really, most importantly for me, why I'm excited about having him partnering with us is that he's really, really, truly passionate about trucking safety. He cares. And when people care, they can impart a lot of helpful knowledge and information, which is what we're about in these webinars, is to help everybody in our association, hopefully avoid injury, accident, death, and all that goes with it, which is what we're about to hear about as we as Kevin takes us through the day after. So with that, Kevin, thanks again. Turning it over to you, my friend.
Well, I really appreciate that, Bill. You know, you talk about the day after. You know, before we talked about periodic inspections and what you need when we come to see you as far as a periodic inspection goes. When it comes to mechanic certifications, a lot of carriers have no idea you got to have those mechanic certifications, and that's why I wanted to title the first one "Getting Back to Basics," is just getting back to the basic fundamentals of what you have to have for document recording. And the reason I say that is because an attorney is going to come in, and I've sat in so many. Attorney's going to come in, and that's where they're going to hang you as being non-compliant. So we're going to come in, we're going to do a review. We're going to do what we call a post-crash review. This review is going to consist of me going through all of your files for the crash driver. So the crash driver is going to face scrutiny in hours of service. I'm going to look at their DQ file to see if there's anything in that DQ file that shows me that you were non-compliant as a carrier. That DQ file, whether you're hauling concrete, dirt, a steel beam, heavy equipment, it doesn't matter what you're hauling. You can haul raw crap and it's still the same. You can haul trash. You can haul intermodal equipment down here. Anything you haul, if it's in intra or interstate, it doesn't matter. That DQ file has got to be right. Your CDLs in 383 have got to be right. Your self-registration with the state of Georgia has got to be correct, and it's got to be complete. It's got to be up to date. Your health card is going to have to read and be correct with the dates that are on it that match everything else that I look at. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look if you have any kind of hazardous material that you haul. I'm going to make sure you've got your registration. Everything comes to play for that one driver that, are you still there? Okay,
I'm still
sorry. My screen just kind of went away. Everything's coming to play because of one driver. One driver, one accident, and everything comes into play. So I'm going to give a scenario of going back to what we talked about before. I'm going to give a scenario of a crash. So we're going to pick a cement mixer driver. Driving in intrastate commerce. He's not leaving the state. He's not in interstate commerce. Intrastate commerce and interstate commerce are going to be the same when it comes to this. When I come to see you at your business, what I'm going to ask for, and you have to have it on demand. The regulation clearly points out that everything that we have to have on demand. I'm going to get in touch with you, and you have 48 hours to get me a driver's list of every driver that you've had with a commercial driver's license, or that has a health card that drives a truck between 10,001 and 26,001 pounds. I'm saying that double, aren't I? 10,001 to 26,001 You're going to have every driver listed on this driver list. Over 26,001, you're going to have every driver listed on that list. And all those drivers that drove for you within 365 days, that list is going to have the driver's name, the birth date, contact number, the hire date, and the termination date if it applies. All this has got to be sent to me. Your vehicle list, your commercial vehicle list, anything 10,001 pounds and over, it's going to have to be on a list of all the tractors and trucks that you have, whether straight, tractor, or and/or trailers. I'm going to look at that. Then I'm going to have you fill out a questionnaire. That questionnaire is going to have your gross revenue for the year, how many miles you turned in last year. Are you an intra or intrastate carrier? Do you use E-rods? Do you use paper logs? Are you on a timesheet? It's going to have this plethora of information that you've got 48 hours to get together and send to me, or you're non-compliant. And once you're non-compliant, that's where the big fines start coming in. So I get this initial information. I use all this information, but I'm only coming to see you because of one driver and one crash. But I have to have all of your information. So I look at this one driver and this one crash. So what is the one thing I need to make sure of during this review? I need to make sure, and we're getting to the big stuff, I need to make sure that the driver qualification file is correct. Does it have a compliant application in it? There's some people that think, and I'm not throwing off on any business, but there's some people that think you can go download just a regular employment application and that works for a commercial driver. It does not. If it does not have the years of experience that you have in it, it's non-compliant. You've got to show those years of experience. What kind of equipment you drove in the past has to be in there. On our website, if you go to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Planner, the planner has documents in there that you can upload, and you can put your name on it. You can put your business name on it, your company, you can put your logos up at the top, but it is a compliant application for commercial drivers. So I'm going to be looking at that. I'm going to be looking at the original MVR that you pulled compared to the date on the driver list you just sent me. I'm going to match those up. If you use this driver before you pulled that report, now you're in violation. I'm going to look at an annual review. If that driver's been with you over a year, it's crash driver. Remember, we're just talking about a crash driver. That driver's been there 5 years. I'm going back 365 days. I should have a minimum of one annual review in there with the annual review form, an MVR, and where you check to the clearinghouse. So that's got to be in there. I also have to have the medical card showing that the driver is good to go with his physical or her physical. With that, I'm going to look at the date and the registration number on the medical card. You've got to verify that the medical examiner is certified with the FMCSA. If that certification's not in there, now you're in violation. A lot of little things lead up to the big picture. So little things I've just mentioned goes into that. If you have a driver that just has one eye, but that driver is cleared to operate by the medical doctor, I'll need that medical variance also has to be in that driver qualification file. Now, when you hand me a driver qualification file, and that qualification file has in it long forms, it has revenue, it's got payroll stuff and everything. When you hand it to me, I can review anything that's in it, and I can derive I can pick anything that will lead me into something. So I'm looking at this now. I've got his payroll. Now I've got all this. I say this to say that. The regulation states what goes into the driver qualification file. Keep it there. Don't put anything else in it. You want to keep up with driver payroll, put it in a driver file somewhere else. You want to put up with how that driver does his Social Security and his taxes, that needs to go somewhere else. That driver's child support needs to go somewhere else. Remember, We're coming in to look, and we're going to dig deep. And if you give me stuff to look at, then I can use that against you. So only use what you have, what you're required to have. So now you've got the DQ file. Now I'm going to look at a SIDLIS report. I'm going to pull your driver's SIDLIS report. I'm going to see if this driver's had any unsafe driving citations and convictions or withdrawals in the last 365 days. If I find that and there's a conviction, I'm going to do what we call an NOC, which is a notice of claim, and it starts about $850, and I'm going to do a notice of claim on that driver for having that violation and having that citation written and that conviction in court. If I see that that driver had, I don't know, had their license suspended for 8 days because of child support, and then it got put back in, but I can look and see that that driver worked for you in that 8 days and drove that truck, now we have more violations. So you're not required to check them every day, but if you have drivers who have child support, you need to do your best to make sure you're communicating with them to make sure that that's paid monthly. That is the biggest fine that I see that goes out, because, and that's usually a driver fine. That doesn't go to the company. That goes to the driver for operating while knowledgeable that. So then comes the next one, your hours of service. I'm going to want to see the timesheets, and this is what I'm going to ask for. I'm going to ask for their timesheets. It's a cement mixer. He comes in every morning, he leaves every evening, or she. They come in every evening and they leave every morning if you got a night pour. I'm going to look to see if you had the proper rest in there. You got a driver comes in at 6 in the morning, leaves at 6 in the evening. You're under 14 hours. You're good to go. That driver comes back in at 10 o'clock, works till 4 in the morning because they wanted to do a night pour and make some extra money. Guess who's in violation at midnight? Because now you've busted that 14 hours, because I'm going to take the 12, what that little break you had, add those 2 from 10 to 12, everything from 12:01 all the way till they get off that next morning is going to be a violation of the 14-hour rule. So now I've got you there. So the next basic we're going to go to is, and all this leads up to the day after. This is the day after. The vehicle maintenance file. You're going to hand me a vehicle maintenance file, and the very first thing I'm going to look at is a few things. I want to look at the beginning. I want to start on the top of this vehicle maintenance file. And I'm going to have right here. So if you had it all laid out, I've got my driver qualification file here. I have my hours of service here. That's got dispatch records. It's got anything that they hauled or what they did those days. With this hours of service, I'm going to have payroll. I'm going to ask for the driver's payroll for that 30-day period. I'm going to ask for any vacation time during that 30-day period. I'm going to ask for fuel receipts. If they fuel on site, I'm going to ask for you to give me any fuel that that driver did and what time that driver fueled. I'm going to ask for any accident reports, incident reports, whether he backed into something on your yard or somebody else's yard. I'm looking for a pattern of unsafe driving. While I'm in this vehicle maintenance file, I'm going to look at things that'll match up with these other items. So on this vehicle maintenance file, the one thing that you are required to have is the year, make, model, VIN number, and the tire size. If all that's not there, you're in non-compliance in Part 396 of the regulation. You must have that on there. That is part of that vehicle maintenance file. So if you're good to go with that, I'm going to flip this file open, or I'm going to open it on a screen. What I want to do is look at annual inspections. I'm going to ask for annual inspections on that one vehicle that was involved in the fatal crash. We're going to say it's fatal. Even though none of us want that, I'm going to look at worst case scenario. I'm going to look at that one vehicle. I'm going to need an annual inspection for the last 14 months. So you're going to have the one that's current, but record keeping says you got to keep the other one also. So I need the one prior. I'm going to look at the mechanics that completed that. I want to see their certifications. Each one, if it's the same one, it'll just be one. If it's different mechanics, I need those mechanics' signatures. I need them on certification form. If that maintenance was done or the annual inspection was done at an outside source, then I need the mechanic certifications from that outside source. You're responsible to have that. So they will have to provide you with that. I'm also going to start looking deeper and deeper into it of what was checked. Was anything found wrong with this vehicle during these annual inspections? So I'm going to lay the annual inspection down. I'm going to look at the date the annual inspection was completed, and I'm going to look for any work orders at all during that time period, during that day. I want to look to see if there's any DVIRs during that day. Side note, if you are a carrier and in your policy, you require your carrier and all your drivers to complete a DVIR each and every, whether it's nothing on it or you've got violations on it, things that need to be fixed. If you require those to be done, they must be in here. The FMCSA says if there's nothing wrong, you don't have to complete. Bird watchers want a safe paper. I got it. Sorry, that's just my opinion. But if you're keeping it electronically, fine. But a clean DVIR and a DVIR with violations under record keeping, under question 23 in part 396, clearly states in the interpretation that a DVIR with no defects or a DVIR with defects must be treated equally upon record keeping. So you are required to keep those DVIRs that have no defects on them, which we know everybody has all the clean ones. There's never anything wrong. There's never anything wrong on an annual inspection. And there's never anything wrong on a DVIR. They're all clean. If you look at them, you go back, I mean, literally, clean DVIRs. They're checked, check, 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 check. Every day. There's check marks everywhere. Everything's good. Everything's good. But you know, if you read the instructions on the DVIR, each one of those checks means there's something wrong with it. You're actually not supposed to check it. If there's something wrong with it, then you check it. But that's another story. That's form and manner. Not going to worry about it. Another day, another time. So I'm finding work orders in this vehicle maintenance file that occurred during the annual inspection day. So I'm going to look and see where these work orders came from. Were they roadside? Did somebody on an outside source do these? So you've got work orders from, I'm going to say SOS Tire, and then Billy, the mechanic, over here is the one that did annual inspection. So these are separate. But what I want to find out is, was there something wrong with the truck and it was sent over here to have the repairs done without the annual inspection being complete? Did the annual inspection complete and then it went over here and had all the repairs done on it and then come back? And if that annual inspection has no defects all the way through it, I want somebody's going to sit down and answer to me during that day in a written statement. And at the bottom of the written statement, it clearly says that all of your answers must be truthful to the best of your knowledge as the perjury clause comes in. You could perjure yourself by saying, yes, there were no defects, and later on that day, we found out that there was something going on, something happened out on a job site and had to get it fixed. Well, I go and pull credit card receipts because I can also do that. And I find out that that was actually done at your shop. Your mechanic went over and he bought the part for it. It was done at the shop at 9 a.m. And I know that the annual inspection was done at 9 a.m. per my questioning before we started all this. So now I know that that wasn't true. And this was a defect that was found that wasn't marked. And now I have a work order to prove that work was done on the truck for defects that were found that were clearly not marked on the annual inspection. A DVIR was filled out that morning before the accident, stating that there was a slight air leak and the cement was starting to, get hot in that drum and it needed to go. It just needed to get out of here. We'll work on it when we get back. Death knell in the coffin right there. I understand that the stuff's hot and everything, but should have looked after the violation or the defect before we loaded the back end of that truck up. So I found a few violations. I found a violation where a DVIR showed that a defect was allowed to go out on the job site and come back. I found an annual inspection with work orders that proved that there were repairs made, but the work order wasn't filled out correctly. So is that a violation of the FMCSA that you must fill that out? Honestly, no. Doesn't say that anywhere in it. But what that shows in court is dishonesty. It shows moving away from doing things honest and doing things quick to get it done and get it out the door. That's where an attorney is going to get you. So I want to go back to the beginning. I've looked through all these documents. I've filled out everything that I've got. Your violations are this. You don't have a compliant application. Your medical examiner, the certification that you have to required to have in there wasn't there. Little nominal violation, not acute critical, nothing that's going to really beat you down with us too bad. Hours of service. The driver was in violation of 14 hours, 24 hours before the accident, because he came in and did a few hours working on a night pour without a 10-hour break after working 12 hours that day. So I have an hours of service file for a 14-hour. Now we go to the vehicle maintenance file. I have a annual inspection with no defects. Clearly work was done that was for defects found during the annual inspection, and a DVIR where when they found the truck, they found the roadside, found the violation during the post crash, during this fatal accident, that there was an air leak at the chamber that was reported on a DVIR, but was not repaired before the load went out. So now you have all these violations, these 4 or 5 violations that are not going to change your rating with us. Yes, you're going to get a fine because of the brake, the DVIR not repairing it. You're going to get a fine for that. It's going to be about $1,000. Will you get a fine for any convictions? That one I was talking about him working while his license was suspended. Yeah, it's going to be about $850. So once we submit, after we submit, an attorney is going to come in and they're going to ask you for each individual item that I just asked you for, because that attorney can FOIA this review and he can use it against you in court. The importance of getting everything correct as far as record keeping and making sure these DVIRs are fixed before they go out. Any defects are repaired before they go out. Drivers are doing correct pre and post trips. They're writing down defects when found. Those are getting repaired. If you have a defect found during an annual review, check it as a defect, make the work order match the paperwork, because it's also a felony to fraudulently fill out a federal document, which an annual inspection is. So if you have an annual inspection with no defects, you do the annual inspection, you don't fix anything because you don't think it's that bad. It goes right out and gets a roadside inspection. They find defects, and then that driver gets in an accident with those non-out of service defects. It's coming right back to your annual inspection that was fraudulently filled out, which is a felony because the defects were found. The driver admitted it in court because he had to under oath, and now you're hung. Now your fines from us that are going to be $8,000-$10,000 are nothing compared to the $20 million they're going to come after, and the $20 million they're going to get. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. But if you've got an extra $10 million policy to cover you in case that 20 doesn't work, they're going to find what your limits are. That's all for you. And they're going to come after that as well. They're going to come after the bottom line, what you have. But our investigation lets them know what you are non-compliant in. And that's what the prosecution is going to come after you for. And that's what the defense can't defend you for. They just can't. So defense attorneys usually during fatal accidents, first thing they'll do is contact me as the investigator and say, hey, I need you to share with me everything that you find as you go through this, because I'm their legal counsel. And I say, hey, you got to contact the United States government, U.S. Department of Transportation, the FOIA office up there, and let them know when I'm done. Then you can have a copy of this review. But till then, can't tell you anything. So everybody's sitting in limbo. You're still running trucks, but you don't even know what's going on. But if you'll sit in the office with me, I'm going to let you know every little thing that I find. So you kind of know if I have to tell you what I'm finding. So as a defense attorney, you can relay that to your defense attorney. So you're way ahead of the game before the prosecution gets a hold of this in a FOIA. But the importance of having everything in order and having it all ready, because when I come in, it's on demand. It's not, hey, give me a couple of days, I'll get that vehicle maintenance file. Nope. We're going to write it down, non-compliant, $10,000 fine for not having a vehicle maintenance file. Can you data queue that later and say, oh, well, we had it, we just didn't get it together in time? You can, but the FMCSA is not going to do it because it's an on-demand deal. But one fatal crash, one injury crash. I just did an injury crash the other day. The vehicle maintenance file was missing the annual inspection. They just missed the date. They forgot about it. It was about 4 days overdue. They just didn't think about it. And they got 170 something trucks. So they kind of slipped through the cracks. But the guy hit, almost killed a guy. Didn't kill him, injured him real bad. And their court case starts in 3 weeks. They're going to go to court. But the defense has already requested max of their limits on their insurance. And will they end up paying $18 million? Absolutely. They will, because they're the trucking company and because that annual inspection wasn't done. So they were operating a vehicle that did not have an annual inspection on it. And now they're going to be totally out of the water when it comes to it. And the owner told me, if I have to pay max on this, I'm done. I'm shutting my doors. There's no way I can afford that with everything going on with the freight the way it is down here right now. So this will shut him down. It'll shut him down completely. Some places may have the money to do that. A lot of people don't have 18 or 20 or $40 million. Their insurance company is going to drop them. We're going to jack the rates up. So having your documents in order and knowing that your employees are compliant. If you have a trucking company and you've got dispatchers, do they know that a local driver doesn't have to do a 30-minute break every day if they're under 150 air miles, 172 ground miles? Do they know that that driver can only work 14 hours? They've still got to abide by the rules, go home and sleep and come back. If you're doing night work, stuff like that, they work all day long. Dispatchers got to know how to look at that. I will question dispatchers. I will interview operations managers. I will interview mechanics. I will interview, I'll go out to the job site and interview the people at the job site and get them to sign a statement saying that they saw this truck, this number, this driver. I'll look for sheets where they signed it off that the truck delivered the cement or whatever they were doing that day, but excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm babysitting my sister's dog. But the importance of just having it together and having the training is the difference between not guilty and guilty. And you can do everything you can do. And I know revenue is important, but having someone in your safety office or having someone in your operations that can deep dive into the regulations, and that person that's going to catch it more than anybody is going to be the signature at the bottom of your required MCS 150 biannual update. Because right beside that signature, it says, I, your name, am certified that I am familiar with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulation. So that right there is our catch-22 that is not your get out of jail free card. It's your I'm responsible for the whole thing card. So sit down in your company, talk to whoever signs that MCS 150. Take some time, open the regulation, You'd be shocked how many companies I go to. Every one of them does trucking in every kind of aspect of the world: intermodal, refrigerated, dry van, concrete, dump trucks, long dump, short dump, doesn't matter, hauling cars, whatever, hauling trash, straight trucks, 10,012 pounds. It doesn't matter what it is. You'd be surprised how many companies, I would safely say 70% of the carriers I see do not even have a copy of the regulation in-house because it's not that important. But $30 million later, it's important. $20 million later, it's important. Somebody's life, it's important. When we come in, it's extremely important, because the first two things I'm going to ask you for when I walk in the door is your company policies for drivers and a copy of your federal motor carrier safety regulations. 9 out of 10 times I get one of the two, and it's the company policies. And those policies don't cover unsafe driving like they should, or they don't cover it at all. And they don't cover DVIRs, pre and post trip inspections. Anything that I can use against you, I will get, because you'll hand it to me. I'm one of those investigators. I'm not going to use it against you because I've sat in that seat. I've slept in that sleeper. I've sat at the back of that truck and took the water hose and washed out the chutes, lifted them up on my shoulders, pinched my fingers, putting them back up on the hangers. I've set the chains on the back of a dump truck so I could pour, and when I pour it, I'm laying it out instead of dumping it out. I've been there, done that. I know what it's like to have a trucking company because my dad had one. So can you be everywhere all the time? You can't. So I'm going to use it to help you. I'm going to educate you. I want you to do it right. If we can fix a few things and avoid a violation, hey, you didn't have a certification check for the regulation, for the health card. That's fine. Now you've got to do it. So let's go get it, put it in the file, and we're not going to worry about that violation, because that's kind of like writing a driver up for not having a spare fuse. I think it's ridiculous. If that truck is clean all the way through, and that's what you write up to give him, or just to give the driver a write up, you're not doing your job in educating the driver. And I'm not doing my job educating you as a carrier if I'm going to write up some little something that just makes it a violation, just to get a violation. There's no sense in it. But you as a carrier must do your part. You got to understand, these headhunters are out here. These ambulance chases are out here. These Kim Nugents are everywhere, all over the place. Look at the billboards. They don't have wrecked cars with a moped. They got a wrecked car with a big truck. And that's what they're after. They're after it all day. It makes me sick to see it. But they're after you. And they're going to come get you. And there's people that'll slam their brakes on and risk their life just to get that payout. So make sure your files are right. Make sure we're happy. If you ever wanted to get in touch with me and go through a list of the things that I will send you, feel free to send me an email. Everybody on here, my email address, if you've got something to write with, is or Emily can send it out. It's patrick.elrod, ELROD, @dot.gov. And you want to see what that questionnaire has on it that I'll send you. You want to see what that equipment list looks like that you've got to send to me in that format, that driver's list, what it looks like in that format, that hours of service worksheet, what it looks like in that format that you'll have to send me. Send me an email, say, hey, I'd just like to see what that looks like. I'll shoot you the blank documents and you can keep it for yourself, kind of look through it, fill it out yourself, and just kind of see where you are. Test yourself a little bit. And next time I'm up in Gainesville, I'm going to make Bill buy me a hamburger. But it's, even though he couldn't use his camera. So that's kind of it. I just wanted you to kind of see what happens on the day after. It can be tragic, but if you've got everything together, it can really come out well on your end. Will you be at fault for a driver fatality? A lot of it depends on your paperwork. A lot of it depends on what happens at the scene. The one last thing that I will tell you is this. Tell your drivers, always put it in policy. Do not speak to anyone but the law enforcement that is in operation of the scene. You got a Georgia State trooper and it's his scene. He can be talked to. If you have an attorney for your company, have that attorney on site. Have that attorney in that driver's ear. Let him guide that driver to what to say and what not to say. Tell a driver, never, under any circumstance, do you apologize. Ever. Don't apologize to anybody. That's an admission of guilt in court, and they will use that against you. Somebody will record it. They'll write it down. They'll get witnesses that heard you say it. Tell the driver minimal talk, minimal conversation with anybody outside of law enforcement running the scene. Take as many pictures as possible. Tag numbers, badge numbers. Remember this, on every patrol number is the badge number. Always keep that in mind. In the state of Georgia, they went to that. Every motor carrier compliance officer and every Georgia state trooper, their tag number is the badge number to the officer that drives it. So get those pictures, look up that information, stay in contact with the driver, get somebody to the scene, make sure the driver is tested. That post-accident is important. Get somebody out there to the scene. If you can't get the alcohol done after 2 hours, make sure that you're documenting every 2 hours why that driver did not get tested. When you get to 8 hours, stop trying. Don't even go any further because it's not going to count. But again, anything you need of me, let me know. I'm always here to help. I'm really, really hoping, I'm almost positive that we're going to be able to make everything next month. It'd be good to see you guys on the trip you're going to be taking. So almost 80% sure that we'll be there.
Good.
But, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today. I hope you got something out of it.
Kevin, listen, forget the hamburger. I'm going to take you to the Waffle House. You know, the place where they cook the food right in front of you? We'll be there, okay? Thank you. We got just a few minutes. You know, when you cover the waterfront the way you do, it's like, can there be any questions? But let's take just a moment and see if anyone might have a question. Anybody?
Yeah, on that $18 million lawsuit, what injuries were sustained on that?
The driver had 2 broken legs, and he has two broken legs and 2 cracked vertebrae in his back. It was a rear end accident.
How many miles per hour?
CMV hit the driver running 42 miles an hour, ran the driver into another driver in front of him that had stalled in the road. The car had quit. And when the driver came over the hill, he came down and you can see he had a hard brake event, but there was no stopping it with that load behind him. He had a load that was, he had overweight permits and all, but he had a load that had, that required a 100,000 pound permit. I think total gross was 97.6.
How could it have been prevented? How could it have been prevented? Would you have an opinion?
I would. Speed limit's 45 on the road, and he slammed on his brakes to get to 42.
Okay.
He was exceeding the speed limit when he came over the hill.
Gotcha. Paul, did you have another question, Paul? Paul Fly?
No, I did not. I was just wondering, how it got to $18 million, but you probably, vertebrae.
That's their policy. Their policy limit with Great West is $18 million. And they have secondary policies, and those secondary policies are about $2 million apiece, just to kind of help make up to get to 20, because they just couldn't get to 20 with Great West. And they'll go after those before it's over.
Do you happen to know how much medical costs were on that and the special loss?
Because it's fresh, it's about a week and a half old right now. I think with the emergency cost, what they're looking at with therapy and everything, they're kind of estimating that the medical cost right now is going to run probably $500,000.
Okay.
That's just for now. I mean, once therapy starts, that could last years.
Yeah, this is Ray with Southern Ready Mix. I was going to see if you could repeat your email address, please.
Yeah, it's Patrick, Patrick, dot Elrod, Elrod, at dot.gov.
At DOT, did you say?
Yes, sir. DOT, Delta Oscar Tango,
Yes.
dot GOV, Golf Oscar Victor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, we are at the end of this wonderful webinar. And Kevin, again, thank you for this incredible information. And we really, really appreciate you. And we'll look forward to another one of these in the next couple of months.
Absolutely. I look forward to being here with you guys. And I'll tell you, a joking thing, but I want to do it because the meal's here. I don't know how many of you get tired of using notepads all day long, get tired of having legal pads sitting around all the time. But here, I got this as a gift this year. It's called a Remarkable. If you want something for your business that'll help you more than anything, get this little deal right here. It's kind of like the old tablets, but you write on it. And it's got a terabyte of memory in it, but you can take and literally write down notes in this thing. You can categorize them. You can put them in folders. You can email it from here if you need to. But the cool thing is you can take your handwriting, chicken scratch, whatever you call it, and you can hit one button and turn it into a PDF. So you don't even have to go back and retype it. It types it for you. For the best thing, I don't carry any paper on me anymore. It's just this little deal right here. I go to do an investigation or do something. I write down all notes. I save it as I carry and I come home. It makes a PDF. I put it up on my screen, turn it in with my investigation. It is the quickest. It probably saves me 2 hours of time every day.
Wow. That's a great tip.
It's a time saver, I'm telling you, when you got to write stuff all day.
Kevin, you said that was called a Remarkable. It's Zach Luna with Ernst.
Yep. Remarkable. Comes with a little magnet on the side. Your pen sticks to the side of it. Stays right there. Paper thin, really lightweight. Got a cool little screen on it right here. You got a passcode you put in to get in it so you can protect everything you got. Nobody can just open it and look at your documents. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
And one more question before I give it up here. The part that you guys are more focusing on is part 396 of FMCSA.
Well, we focus on every part. But if you're an intrastate carrier, which most concrete mixers, dump trucks, things like that, most of them are. Some aren't because a lot of it. So if you're over towards the Bremen area, you may run into Alabama and back. So you're interstate. And here's something I'll tell you about that. The state of Georgia will tell you as long as you're not going but about 10 or 15 miles over there and back, we're not going to really look at your authority. Look, as soon as you cross the state line with us, we're looking at your authority. Down here in the port, if you haul an intermodal container out and it come off of a ship, you're in interstate commerce, whether you take it from the port 300 feet down the road to your yard. That's interstate commerce as defined. The state isn't going to give you an authority violation. Myself, every roadside you get that has that on it and you're running intrastate tags and you've got K restrictions on licenses, I'm going to write you violations all day long because the federal government doesn't give you leeway. The state might give you a little leeway, but we don't when it comes in. So I tell everybody all the time, always remember, Big Brother's not going to give you leeway. You can listen to the state if you want and let them do their little, well, we're going to give you a break. We're not. It doesn't work that way. But I say that to say this is read the regulation. Make sure you dig into it. If you got questions, let me know.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Folks, have a safe week. Thanks again to all of you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day. Thank you for letting me